morning, Shabbat Shalom. Let's go ahead and begin our Torah portion with a blessing. Who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. Please, Yehovah our God, sweeten the words of Torah in our mouth and in the mouth of your people, the family of Israel. May we and our offspring and the offspring of your people, the house of Israel, all of us know your name and study your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who teaches Torah to his people Israel. Amen. Right. Today's Torah portion is Acharei-Mot, which translates roughly to after death or after the death. And it's Leviticus chapters 16, verse 1 through 20, verse 27. Do I have a volunteer to read the first portion? If I could get someone to read Leviticus 16, verses 1 through 24. I'll go ahead. Jason? Thank you.
The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when he came near before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron your brother not to come at just any time into the most holy place within the veil, before the mercy seat which is on the ark, lest he die, for I will appear in the cloud on the mercy seat. Aaron shall come into the sanctuary with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen tunic. He shall have the linen trousers on his body, and shall put on the linen sash, and he shall be clothed with the linen turban. They are the holy garments. He shall bathe his body in water and put them on. He shall take from the congregation of the children of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Aaron shall offer the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his house. He shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the door of the tent of meeting. Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for Yahweh, and the other lot for the scapegoat. Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for Yahweh and offer him a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for the scapegoat shall be presented alive before Yahweh to make atonement for him, to send him away as the scapegoat into the wilderness. Aaron shall present the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself. He shall take a censer full of coals of fire from off the altar before Yahweh, and 2 handfuls of sweet incense, beaten small, and bring it within the veil. He shall put the incense on the fire before Yahweh, and the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is on the covenant, so that he will not die. He shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east, and before the mercy seat he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. He shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring his blood within the veil, and do with his blood as he did with the blood of the bull, and sprinkle it on the mercy seat before the mercy seat. He shall make atonement for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions, even all their sins, and so he shall do for the tent of meeting that dwells with them in the middle of their uncleanness. No one shall be in the tent of meeting when he enters to make atonement for the holy in the holy place, until he comes out and has made atonement for himself and for his household and for all the assembly of Israel. He shall go out to the altar that is before Yahweh and make atonement for it, and shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood, and put it around on the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and make it holy from the uncleanness of the children of Israel. When he has finished atoning for the holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he shall present the live goat. Aaron shall lay both of his hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions, even all their sins, and he shall put them on the head of the goat, and shall send him away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is ready. The goat shall carry all of their iniquities on himself to a solitary land, and he shall release the goat in the wilderness. Aaron shall come into the tent of meeting, and he shall take off the linen garments which he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there. Then he shall bathe himself in water in a holy place, put on his garments and come out and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people and make atonement for himself and for the people.
All right, thank you, Jason. Do we have any comments on this section? Yes, back here.
Okay, hi. So I'm quite new to this Torah, so it's kind of fresh to my eyes. And I've been thinking a lot about the wedding of the Lamb and how we're in preparation, like it's a, what is it? I don't know what the word is. Like we're getting ready, like we're doing the feasts. So we're getting ready, like a rehearsal for it. So here I was looking about the holy garments and how important it was for them to wear the holy garments. And I really felt really strong in my spirit this morning that with the wedding of the Lamb, we should be wearing our wedding garments. We should be preparing for our wedding garments, because somewhere in the Bible it says that there was a man that got into the wedding and he was seen without wedding garments, and he was taken out. And Yeshua said, "How did you get in?" And he was taken out and thrown into darkness. And I was really kind of looking at how interesting it is with the Torah, how it's so related to the New Testament. I'm sorry, I'm just new at this. But we must be preparing our wedding garments. It's so important.
Absolutely. And all of these things definitely point to all of the things in the future, to Yeshua, to the wedding, to the wedding feast that's upcoming, to this is all in preparation for what we all long for sure. I think it's neat as we read through this portion, we'll see that Aaron actually wears several different outfits, for lack of a better term, but he starts off when he's making atonement in the simple, in the white, pure linen. Yeah, Stevie?
Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, we prepare for that, and we're enjoying to prepare for it, ahead of time. There's a lot of times we think, hey, what's the big deal? We can always go to Elohim in prayer for cleansing of sin. We can ask for forgiveness of sin. So what's the big deal with the Day of Atonement? And it really is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think we lose sight of the significance of these biblical festivals and why they are still needed today, because we focus so much on the individual relationship with God. We do not focus much attention on even the corporate congregational relationship with God, much less the entire nation. This is a national day of atonement. It's for the entire nation. And also, we don't really even give, for the most part, the time of day to ritual purity. We're focused on spiritual purity, a higher level. And that's true. It is a higher level. But we need to start with the ritual purity to get to that point. So, but it's not even on our radar, right? So we see two things happening here. There's two goats, right? One is sacrificed. The other is not a sacrifice. But the one is for atonement of sin, for forgiveness of sin. The other one is to take the sin and be done with it, to take it away from the presence of the people and to be disposed of, so that it will never return. So it's not only the atonement of sin, it's the elimination of it as well.
Yes. Yep. Jason? And just to piggyback for a second on what Stevie was saying, this comes right after the death of Nadab and Abihu, after they were in the temple and they didn't do Yehovah's things, Yehovah's ways. And I think the ritual purity is really a big thing, and that's what this section right here is all about. It's about making sure that we know what God expects of us and making sure that we do our absolute best to follow what God expects of us in those purity terms, so that we're able to come into His presence. We're able to be with Him. And in the Mishnah, it says that the priest would pretty much quarantine himself for an entire week before the Day of Atonement, just to make sure he didn't accidentally do something to ritually impurify himself. But
Actually, so that was one of the points that I was going to be making. Thank you, Aaron, because there are many times we don't understand why the ritual purity. Why did Aaron's sons, have to die? What was their heart's intent? And the thing that I go back to, 30 years ago, as I was in military training, I had a colonel tell me, he said, Jason, if I can't expect you to do the small things I ask, how could I ever ask you to do the big things? So if we can't just obey on the small things, as we read this, whether we understand it or not is irrelevant. If we can't obey in the small things, how could He ever ask us to do the bigger things?
absolutely. Yes.
So we've talked about the clothing. So just a little point on that. We have to ask, why would he have to change his clothes? Why? So apparently, with this, he removes those garments. He will not wear them ever again. Okay? So you have a new set of garments. And so it's the idea that you don't want to say to yourself, well, I made it this year, I'm good for another year. That's what the clothing might remind you of. So instead, you're putting on new clothing. It's a whole new day of atonement that you need to be asking forgiveness with.
Yeah, and I think the clothes also paint a picture of Yeshua. At the beginning, he came as the suffering servant in the plain white clothes, but by the end of the Day of Atonement, the priest is all decked out in his regalia. He's decked out in all of it, the breastplate and the hat and all the colors and everything. And when the Father and Yeshua come back, they're coming back in all their glory. All right, do we have any other comments? Yes.
Since Satan is the originator of sin, and he's the direct instigator of all the sins that cause the death of the Son of God, justice demands that Satan shall suffer the final punishment, and that would be the scapegoat.
Do we have any other comments? If not, can I get a volunteer to read the next section? It's chapter 16, verses 25 through chapter 17, verse 16. All right, I'll go ahead and read it. He is to make the fat of the sin offering go up in smoke on the altar. The man who let go the goat for Azazel is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water. Afterwards he may return to the camp. The bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement for the holy place, is to be carried outside the camp. There they are to burn up completely their hides, meat, and dung. The person burning them is to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterwards he may return to camp. It is to be a permanent regulation for you that on the 10th day of the 7th month you are to deny yourselves and not do any kind of work, both the citizen and the foreigner living with you. For on this day atonement will be made for you to purify you. You will be clean before Jehovah from all your sins. It is a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you are to deny yourselves. This is a permanent regulation. The Cohen anointed and consecrated to be Cohen in his father's place will make the atonement. He will put on the linen garments, the holy garments. He will make atonement for the especially holy place. He will make atonement for the tent of meeting and the altar. He will make atonement for the Kohanim and for all the people of the community. This is a permanent regulation for you, to make atonement for the people of Israel because of all their sins once a year. Moshe did as Jehovah had ordered him. Jehovah said to Moshe, "Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the people of Israel. Tell them that this is what Jehovah has ordered. When someone from the community of Israel slaughters an ox, lamb, or goat inside or outside the camp without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to Jehovah before the tabernacle of Jehovah, he is to be charged with blood. He has shed blood, and that person is to be cut off from his people. The reason for this is so that people of Israel will bring their sacrifices that they sacrifice out in the field, so that they will bring them to Jehovah to the entrance of the tent of meeting, to the Kohen, and sacrifice them as peace offerings to Jehovah. The Kohen will splash the blood against the altar of Jehovah at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and make the fat go up in smoke as a pleasing aroma for Jehovah. No longer will they offer sacrifices to the goat demons, before whom they prostitute themselves. This is a permanent regulation for them through all their generations. Also tell them, when someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice without bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to Jehovah, that person is to be cut off from his people. When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you eats any kind of blood, I will set myself against that person who eats blood and cut him off from the people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for yourselves, for it is the blood that makes the atonement because of the life. This is why I told the people of Israel, none of you is to eat blood, nor is any foreigner living with you to eat blood. When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you hunts and catches game, whether animal or bird that may be eaten, he is to pour out its blood and cover it with earth. For the life of every creature, its blood is its life. Therefore I said to the people of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any creature, because of the life of every creature is its blood. Whoever eats it will be cut off. Anyone eating an animal that dies naturally or is torn to death by wild animals, whether he is a citizen or a foreigner, is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and he will be unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. But if he doesn't wash them or bathe his body, he will bear the consequences of his wrongdoing. Do we have any comments on this section? Yes.
For myself, the only way I can reconcile my own actions to all of these verses about eating no blood, no blood, no blood. It's in Genesis 9:4 and Acts 15:29. So if I'm a follower of Yeshua, I want to make sure I'm not eating any blood. So the only way I could figure out how to do that was to become a vegetarian. Because the meat you buy at Meijer's or Kroger's, Walmart, whatever, that is not slaughtered and properly. The blood is not drained properly. It's not washed. It's not soaked in salt to make it suitable to eat. That's what you have to do to meat, to make it suitable to eat. And there are kosher grocery stores, but I don't know if there's any around here, but for myself, the only way I could figure out how to not eat blood was to become a vegetarian.
Yep. Reading through this section, especially chapter 17, this is kind of 5 separate laws, and they all do relate to blood. Digging into it, the way that they talk about blood, what they're referring to is the blood that's flowing through the veins of the animal, the blood that's pumping the life through the animal. And I don't think it's specifically talking about every ounce of blood that's in the muscle fibers, in the tissues, and those kinds of things, but it's the life force, the flowing blood that needs to be drained out. And I think that reading through the food laws here in Leviticus, it's the slaughtering rules are fairly simple. It's pretty much when you slaughter, it's cutting the throat and letting the blood drain out. And that's pretty much the extent of the rules with that. I know that, let's see. I lost my spot in my notes here. In the first law here, in the first section, it talks about the slaughtering of domesticated animals, and it talks about having to always do that in front of the temple. And I was wondering how that fits in today. But in Deuteronomy, in chapter 12, verse 15, it talks about being able to slaughter any animals within your own gates. And it talks about the Israelites offering to the goat demon. And this was a common practice in the pagan lands, in the Canaanites, the Egyptians even. The Hebrew word seir can be translated as hairy goat, but it can also be, it's the name of a goat-shaped god that they had. And the common practice was when you slaughtered an animal, you offered that animal's blood to the goat god. And what the Father was saying, kind of back what he was saying in the first section that we read, I want you to do my things my way. You don't need to know why. This is what I'm asking you. This is what I want you to do. And so when you slaughter an animal, bring it to my temple here, so that you're not tempted to offer any part of it to a pagan god. I want it all. Do we have any other questions or comments? Yeah.
This is not a definitive answer, but sometimes it's helpful for us to understand ancient Near Eastern culture a little bit, to perhaps get an inkling. And you're absolutely right. There's no other reason or justification necessary other than that God calls for it. That's that vertical relationship, and he says it, I believe it, that settles it, right? And that's very good. But we'd like to know why, right? And the goat demon really throws a wrinkle into things because the nations were, it wasn't just like one god that they were focused on. There were many, many gods, and all the many nations had many, many gods, and now God is Elohim, the one and only true God, is in a sense here also weaning Israel away from a common practice that they had picked up in Egypt.
Absolutely.
Where they would, because that's what was done there. And they apparently were also doing this in the field like everybody else did, and continuing that cultural identity marker with the nation of Egypt, because they were a part of that nation. In fact, they were owned by that nation. They were subjects of that nation. So the influence was strong, but Elohim is by this what apparently seems to be drastic action is changing that whole mindset and reliance upon the other gods that they've been indoctrinated with, right?
Yep, for sure. And we had another one up here, and then we can get to Kevin. But how many things are culturally so ingrained that we don't even think of as being pagan, like knock on wood or don't walk under a ladder? All these superstitions that have pagan origins that we don't even think about.
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple of things about what you have said, Stevie. Two things. The first one was talking about learning how to really how to become a disciple, how to learn how to interact with one another corporally, I guess would be the adjective there. But so important that my husband and I just now started coming here more regularly, and we just got done driving well over 2 hours to get here this morning because it is so important. I think it's healing physically, mentally, spiritually, of course. And so what I noted along in this passage was how many times that the Lord said, if you don't do this, you're going to be cut off. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. But the other thing then that you had just said, Stevie, was it isn't just about worshiping and learning together and learning how to do that, learning how to agree and how to disagree, but it's also with whom you do that. You have to be very careful with that too. So a couple of things. So that's what I noted was how many times that he said, if you don't do it my way, then you're going to be out. That's super important to us right now anyway. Who does this go to, Kevin?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, all right, thanks.
Well, I have on my to add what he was saying. There are 3 or 4 of it listed that I have on my notes of they did the exact same thing with the goat and sending it off. And ultimately, it goes back to even some of the studies that I've done with just recently with even witchcraft, and that is the goal of the way that they did it was to try to manipulate the gods to do what they want them to do. And the big picture is we can't with Yah. The purpose was to cleanse us before a holy God of Israel, and you cannot manipulate him. And that was, he wants a relationship, not just to be controlled.
Ray?
I think it has to do with God wants us to do things his way. My father taught me something. He said, come here, and he would watch me do it before him. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to show the nations that he's taught the priesthood how to properly slaughter an animal and what it entails. And that, I believe, that's for the nation of Israel. And at the time, and right now, we can't eat kosher. And I don't think that he even puts us to some of the regulations to us that he puts on Israel as Gentiles. And that's only because of what I've been studying lately. And it kind of rings true to me now that I understand we need to go learn from them how to properly slaughter animals. And we can't just read it and understand it, because they have instructions and practices that they've done for centuries, and it's been passed down. People call it oral Torah, but it's the right teaching about how it's done. We don't have a clue sometimes. I don't think we even know. But I think that we need to go find out from them what it's all about.
And I can't wait for the day when Yeshua comes back and we can find out from him how it's really done.
Yeah, he brings us together.
Absolutely. All right, do we have any other comments on this section? Yeah.
Speaking of the goat demons, we often don't realize that modern entertainment with our children also points to coming into agreement with goat demons. The Disney Peter Pan is actually based on the god Pan, the Greek god Pan, and that is a satire goat demon. So be careful what you're letting your children watch.
Yes, I pick on my mother because when I was a child, there was a CD that she had called, it was by a guy named Zamfir who played the pan flute. And the pan flute is named the pan flute because it's the flute that the god Pan used to play. And so I pick on her about having not so good music in her house. Do we have any other comments? Yeah, back here.
Yes, Acts 15:29, which is for the Gentiles, it says we're supposed to abstain from blood. So that's pretty simple. Just don't eat blood.
I agree, and back here in Leviticus, it definitely states, one of the other things, it definitely states that we are not to ingest blood in any way, shape, or form. That was definitely another pagan practice, and God, the Father, spends a lot of time separating us out from the nations, separating us from being like they are. He wants us to be like He is, not like the nations. Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment to that, when you're reading Deuteronomy, let alone the Torah, it's obviously making a distinction between, or Yahweh's making a distinction between His holiness. And one of the things that you got to remember that the pagan nations did, and He's pulling Israel out of the pagan nations, was they drank the blood of the animals as well. So in essence, it's like the principle of you're not to see a kid in his mother's milk. The very thing that was supposed to give it life is you used it to kill it, to cook it. Blood was in the life, or there was life in the blood. To kind of, on the scientific method to look at it, though, is blood is considered rendered and or not, there is no life in it at 140 degrees. So when it is cooked at 140 to 160, the life of the blood is gone. So just a little tidbit of information.
Yeah, and I think that we can come up with a lot of very valid reasons why it's not why God would prohibit us from ingesting blood in any way, shape, or form. But I think it really comes down to the crux of it comes down to verse 11 in chapter 17, where Yehovah says that the blood is to be offered on the altar to make atonement. That is the purpose of the blood. The blood is for atonement and not for anything else. The blood is the life in the blood atones for us. And so He doesn't want us to use the blood for any purpose but His own, which again is doing His things His ways. Do we have any other comments before we move on? All right, if I can get a volunteer to read chapter 18 in its entirety, please. Stevie?
Adonai said to Moshe, "Speak to the people of Yisrael. Tell them, I am Adonai, your Elohim. You're not to engage in the activities found in the land of Egypt, where you used to live. And you're not to engage in the activities found in the land of Canaan, where I'm bringing you. Nor are you to live by their laws. You are to obey my rulings and laws and live accordingly. I am Adonai, your Elohim. You are to observe my laws and rulings. If a person does them, he will have life through them. I am Adonai. None of you is to approach anyone who is a close relative in order to have sexual relations. I am Adonai. You're not to have sexual relations with your father, and you're not to have sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have sexual relations with her. You're not to have sexual relations with your father's wife. That is your father's prerogative. You're not to have sexual relations with your sister, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother, whether born at home or elsewhere. Do not have sexual relations with them. You are not to have sexual relations with your son's daughter or with your daughter's daughter. Do not have sexual relations with them, because their sexual disgrace will be your own. You're not to have sexual relations with your father's wife's daughter, born to your father, because she is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with her. You're not to have sexual relations with your father's sister, because she is your father's close relative. You're not to have sexual relations with your mother's sister, because she is your mother's close relative. You're not to disgrace your father's brother by having sexual relations with his wife, because she is your aunt. You're not to have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law, because she is your son's wife. Do not have sexual relations with her. You're not to have sexual relations with your brother's wife, because this is your brother's prerogative. You're not to have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter, nor are you to have sexual relations with her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are close relatives of hers, and it would be shameful. You are not to take a woman to be a rival with her sister and have sexual relations with her while her sister is still alive. You're not to approach a woman in order to have sexual relations with her when she is unclean from her time of nida. You're not to go to bed with your neighbor's wife and thus become unclean with her. You're not to let any of your children be sacrificed to Molech, therefore profaning the name of your Elohim. I am Adonai. You're not to go to bed with a man as with a woman. It is an abomination. You're not to have sexual relations with any kind of animal and thus become unclean with it. Nor is any woman to present herself to an animal to have sexual relations with it. It is perversion. Do not make yourselves unclean by any of these things, because all the nations which I'm expelling ahead of you are defiled with them. The land has become unclean, and this is why I am punishing it. The land itself will vomit out its inhabitants. But you are to keep my laws and rulings and not engage in any of these disgusting practices. Neither the citizen nor the foreigner living with you. For the people of the land have committed all these abominations, and the land is now defiled. If you make the land unclean, it will vomit you out too, just as it is vomiting out the nation that was there before you. For those who engage in any of these disgusting practices, whoever they may be, will be cut off from their people. So, keep my charge not to follow any of these abominable customs that others before you have followed, and thus defile yourselves by doing them. I am Adonai, your Elohim.
And we have a comment back here. Thank you, Stevie.
If we can make a comparison here. I'm coming from Amos 5, and it tells us about Moloch. During the times of the Old Testament, that was judged. So you go to Amos 5, and it talks about the assemblies and where they're going with there. But, then we get to Acts 7, and Stephen is about to be stoned to death, with the situation. And he rebukes these people for what they do today. And there's no different than what we got today against the law, which is the star in the circle, versus grace and truth in Jesus Christ, the one risen from the dead. That's the biggest fight today, and we're going to have to stand our ground one day against this wicked thing. It doesn't matter what image they're going to put with that star in the circle, but that's the law versus truth, and people are going to be tried one of these days, and they're going to be tested what they're going to go with and how they're going to be with this, and it's going to be difficult, and they're going to have to see what they got lying ahead of them. And I'm telling you the truth from my heart here, what you got coming here with that. And I can tell you this, you can go to San Francisco, California, and they do these fake child sacrifices at Bohemian Grove, and you could see how this is coming. And all these people on the top these days, what they do for blood, and they've done this all these years, and the truth is going to be revealed. And people are going to have to be like this man and say, no more, no more. We're going to stand for our ground for grace and truth, and we're going to follow Yeshua no matter what it takes. And I preach it from my heart today because I know this is it. And if you watch Chronicles of Narnia, what is that? That's a goat. And the thing we talk about is the separation of the sheep and the goats and the star and the circle. And you can look on your driver's license on your very right side on the top of that corner. What do you got right there? A star and a circle, right? Are we going to follow? Who are we going to follow these days? Like it says in Joshua, who's my Cinderella story, the great high priest, in Zechariah, where he said, Satan rebuke you. And all these times, he probably had all that guilt and that shame, but that day came where he was able to say, no more, no more. I got the holy garments now. I'm going to be something. And it's like, who was the one that walked in the promised land? Joshua was. He took the land, he took it. He says, no more. You've caused so much. And there's maybe some people today that feel that guilt and that shame. They've had this a long, long time. And one day it'll be, there'll be a striker, and they're going to walk right in that liberty and grace and truth of Christ, and there's not going to be any more of that shame. He'll put on that holy garment. They'll have those garments, and they're never going to look back. They're going to want everything of Yeshua. And this stuff that's gone on for years, it's not changed, y'all. Nothing's new under the sun. God judges grace. He judges, He used prophets to judge these people, and his disciples judge these things too. And they were their lives. A witness is a martyr. And if you read the Bible, that's who they were. They stood their ground. And John the Baptist was one of the, I think, the second greatest man that ever walked the earth. And he goes and he tells Herod, this is wrong what you're doing. And this man was beheaded in a charger. And I'm going to tell you, the most honorable man was right there next to Jesus. It's like, we have to be witnesses against this. And it's all in Disney, all the pedophilia, and like she was mentioning in Peter Pan, you look at all this today, and how can people not? How could someone go to McDonald's and realize what that represents? You know what I'm saying? What this stuff represents these days. So I have nothing to lose but to tell the truth.
And I think that's why getting into the Torah is so important. The heart of the Torah is what we need to do to draw near to the Father. The heart of the Torah is what we need to do to bring the Father into our lives, both individually, corporately, as a nation. And he says over and over again, do my things my way. Don't be like the Egyptians. Don't be like the Canaanites. Dare I say it? Don't be like the Americans. Be like my children. Do we have any other comments on this section? Yeah, John?
You recall that in 1 Corinthians, a man had sexual relations with his father's wife. So this was even a problem in New Testament Greek culture, and I believe it was in Corinth.
All right. Do we have any other comments? All right. I think we've got time to read one more section. If I can get a volunteer to read chapter 19, please. Yeah, in the back here.
Okay. Yahweh said to Moses, "Speak to the entire community of Israel. Tell them, you people are to be holy because I, Yahweh, your God, am holy. Every one of you is to revere his father and mother, and you are to keep my Sabbaths. I am Yahweh, your God. Do not turn to idols, and do not cast metal gods for yourselves. I am Yahweh, your God. When you offer a sacrifice of peace offerings to Yahweh, offer it in a way that will make you accepted. It is to be eaten the same day you offer it, and the following day. But if any of it remains until the third day, it is to be burned up completely. If any of it is eaten on the third day, it will have become a disgusting thing, and it will not be accepted. Moreover, everyone who eats it will bear consequences of profaning something holy meant for Yahweh. That person will be cut off from his people. When you harvest the ripe crops produced in the land, don't harvest all the way to the corners of your field, and don't gather the ears of grain left by the harvesters. Likewise, don't gather the grapes left on the vine or fallen on the ground after harvest. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am Yahweh your God. Do not steal from, defraud, or lie to each other. Do not swear by my name falsely, which would be profaning to the name of your God. I am Yahweh. Do not oppress or rob your neighbor. Specifically, you're not to keep back the wages of a hired worker all night until morning. Do not speak a curse against a deaf person or place an obstacle in the way of a blind person. Rather, fear your God. I am Yahweh. Do not be unjust in judging. Show neither partiality in the poor, nor difference to the mighty, but with justice judge your neighbor. Do not go round spreading slander among your people, but also don't stand idly by when your neighbor's life is at stake. I am Yahweh. Do not hate your brother in your heart, but rebuke your neighbor frankly, so that you won't carry sin because of him. Don't take vengeance on or bear a grudge against any of your people. Rather, love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. Observe my regulations. Don't let your livestock mate with those of another kind. Don't sow your seed with 2 different kinds of grain, and don't wear a garment of cloth made with 2 different kinds of thread. If a man has sexual relations with a woman who is a slave intended for another man, and she has neither been redeemed nor given her freedom, this is an investigation. They are not to be put to death because she was not free. In separation, he is to bring a ram. In reparation, he is to bring a ram as a guilt offering for himself to the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest will make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering before Yahweh for the sin committed, and he will be forgiven the sin he committed. When you enter the land and plant various kinds of fruit trees, you are to regard its fruit as forbidden. For 3 years it will be forbidden to you and not eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit will be holy, for praising Yahweh. But in the 5th year, you may eat its fruit, so that it will produce even more for you. I am Yahweh your God. Do not eat anything with blood. Do not practice divination or fortune telling. Don't round your hair at the temples or mar the edges of your beard. Don't cut gashes in your flesh when someone dies or tattoo yourselves. I am Yahweh. Do not debase your daughter by making her a prostitute, so that the land will fall into prostitution and become full of shame. Keep my Sabbaths and revere my sanctuary. I am Yahweh. Do not turn to spirit mediums or sorcerers. Don't seek them out to be defiled by them. I am Yahweh your God. Stand up in the presence of a person with gray hair. Show respect for the old. You are to fear Yahweh. You are to fear your God. I am Yahweh. If a foreigner stays with you in the land, do not do him wrong. Rather, treat the foreigner staying with you like the native born among you. You are to love him as yourself, for you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God. Don't be dishonest when measuring length, weight, or capacity. Rather, use an honest balance scale, honest weights, an honest bushel dry measure, and an honest gallon liquid measure. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Observe all my regulations and rulings and do them. I am Yahweh.
All right, thank you. We are unfortunately out of time to discuss this. There's a lot left in this Torah portion to unpack, a lot that we haven't read yet, but that'll give us something to talk about over Oneg, I guess. One of the things that I really liked here in verse 18, where Moses quotes Matthew and says, love your neighbor as yourself, I thought that was pretty good. But anyhow, let's go ahead and end on a blessing. Blessed are you, Yehovah our God, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth, implanting within us eternal life. Blessed are you, Yehovah our God, who gives the Torah. Amen.